Have you ever wondered why a woman's longing can burn hotter than fire, yet remain cloaked in moonlight and silence? Why beneath her quiet smile lies a storm, one not born of chaos but of ancient knowing? What if female desire was never meant to be explained away by logic or tamed by biology? What if instead it was a sacred fire, lit not by the present moment, but by the echoes of archetypes buried deep in the collective unconscious? Carl Jung once said, "The psyche is not of today, it reaches back into time." And in that simple sentence, he unveiled a secret that most have forgotten. Desire is not merely a reaction, but a memory, etched into the soul before time began. Tonight we peer beyond the veil of attraction and touch the mythic truth beneath. Because what a woman desires is not merely a partner. She desires wholeness. She yearns for the one who recognizes her, not as a role or a reflection, but as an unfolding universe of light and shadow, wild instinct and sacred grace. Jung believed that at the heart of every human lies a constellation of archetypes, the primal blueprints of our behaviors, dreams, and desires. These are not fantasies. They are inherited memories from the collective unconscious. The lover, the maiden, the mother, the sorceress, the huntress, all dwell within the feminine psyche, whispering of the woman she was, the woman she is, and the woman she is becoming. But female desire is not only about who she is, it's also about who she's trying to awaken in you. She does not crave perfection. She craves presence. She does not want dominance. She wants depth. She does not fall for power. She surrenders to resonance. Look at the women in your life. Have you noticed the way her gaze lingers not on the loudest man in the room, but the one who carries a quiet storm? The man who knows his own darkness yet no longer fears it? That is no accident. It is archetypal. For in her, the anima, the soul of the feminine, is not seeking completion in another. She is seeking recognition. She is seeking her mirror. Desire, then, is not superficial. It is symbolic. It is the language of the unconscious made flesh. It is how the soul calls out for the other half of itself, not to possess, but to unite. And yet, many misunderstand this fire. They reduce it to chemistry, timing, or surface charm. But if you look closely through the lens of Jung, you'll see something deeper. The desire within her is the soul's compass, pointing toward individuation, the sacred process of becoming whole. In Jungian thought, individuation is the journey of integrating all the hidden aspects of the psyche, the bright and the broken, the known and the buried, into a unified self. And desire plays a pivotal role. For what we desire most intensely often reveals what our conscious mind refuses to see. So when a woman desires, she is not simply expressing a want. She is awakening an archetype within herself and perhaps within you. The alchemist who longs to transform, the lover who yearns to dissolve boundaries, the huntress who seeks challenge and freedom, the oracle who reads souls by silence alone. Each one of these inner figures has her own hunger, her own truth, and each one leads her back to the self if she dares to follow. But the journey is not easy, for female desire has long been shamed, hidden, romanticized, and misunderstood. It has been chained to roles and rules, forced into quiet submission, yet the archetypes never die. They wait beneath the surface, stirring in dreams, art, attraction, and conflict. That is why this journey matters. Because if you can understand the true nature of desire, not as lust, but as longing for integration, you will never look at a woman the same way again. And perhaps you will never look at yourself the same way either. So look back into your own story, the moments when a glance unraveled you, the nights you could not sleep for the ache of wanting, the encounters that changed you, not because they lasted, but because they revealed. These are not coincidences, they are doorways. And in the moments ahead, we'll walk through them. We will unravel how female desire is not weakness nor mystery, but mythology made real. how it reflects the archetypes guiding your life, and how it may just be the key to your own healing, transformation, and truth. If you're drawn to the mysteries of the soul, subscribe now and join a community of seekers exploring life's hidden patterns. Because beneath the surface of what we want lies the truth of who we are, the symbol of desire. From flesh to myth. Desire in its rawest form is often mistaken for need. But what if it's not about having, possessing, or even fulfilling? What if desire, especially in the feminine, is a compass not pointing outward but inward? What if her yearning is not for a person but a passage, not a partner but a portal? Let's begin here. The body, the flesh, the outer layer, what the world sees and often judges. Carl Jung taught that symbols are the language of the unconscious, and everything we can touch, feel, or see has a deeper meaning if we dare to look through the veil. So too with desire. A woman's body is not merely a form, it is a temple of archetypes. Her eyes are not just blue or brown or green, they are portals. The mouth does not simply smile or speak, it incants. Her walk, her stillness, her silence, her laughter, they are all symbols of what the soul is attempting to express, even when the conscious mind has no words. Take, for instance, the mythic symbolism of the eyes, so often called the windows to the soul. Across cultures from Egypt to India, from the Norse to the Aztec, eyes have symbolized not only perception but initiation. In Jungian terms, the gaze can awaken the unconscious archetypes lying dormant within us. Have you ever been seen by someone so deeply that it was as though they undressed your soul? That is no accident. That is an encounter with the archetype of the oracle, the one who sees not just who you are, but what you could become. And often that oracle lives within the feminine. Her desire is to be met in truth, to find the one who doesn't flinch when the mask falls, the one who stays when the wound is exposed, the one who says, I see you, and not with judgment, but with reverence. Desire then becomes a rite of passage. It is a flame that burns away illusion. And for the woman on the path of awakening, it is never just about attraction. It is about alchemy. Now let's dive deeper into the collective unconscious, that infinite ocean of symbols, dreams, and ancestral memory Jung spoke of. Within this ocean live the archetypes, the recurring patterns and forces that shape human experience. And when it comes to female desire, several archetypes rise with undeniable power. There is the lover, ruled not by romance but by surrender. Her desire is total. She does not want part of you, she wants your soul unveiled, your wounds kissed, your shadows confessed. She wants to merge, not to lose herself, but to expand into something sacred and beyond. There is the maiden whose desire is discovery, newness, wonder. She seeks the thrill of becoming, of play, of innocence reawakened. But beware. The maiden, when unbalanced, can project fantasy over reality, seeing only what she hopes, not what is. Then there is the mother, whose desire is nourishment, not just of children, but of dreams, of purpose, of the sacred and the mundane. Her shadow can be sacrifice, her light creation. The huntress burns with independence. Her desire is freedom. She seeks not the one who cages her, but the one who can run beside her. She is not impressed by gestures. She is awakened by presence. And there is the mystic, the seer. Her desire is for truth. Her intimacy begins in the mind and ends in the stars. She yearns for the one who understands silence more deeply than speech. When a woman moves through the world, these archetypes ripple through her, not as costumes, but as codes. And when desire strikes, it is often one of these inner figures reaching out, not just toward the object of her longing, but toward her own wholeness. And here's the mystery. Her desire is not always for what is good for her. Sometimes she is drawn to what breaks her because it reveals her shadow. Sometimes she falls for the unavailable because she herself is hiding. Sometimes she chases chaos because peace feels foreign. This is not pathology, it is pattern, it is psyche. It is the unconscious calling for integration. In Jung's words, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So the desires that confuse her, shame her, even wound her, these are not failures, they are clues. Clues from the unconscious, symbols from the soul. They point to what has not yet been healed. They illuminate what remains unclaimed in her story. They beckon her toward individuation, the sacred work of becoming fully herself. Let us remember, desire is not dirty. It is divine. In ancient myths, desire sparked wars, built kingdoms, birthed gods. It is not to be diminished or explained away. It is to be read like scripture. Because desire, especially the desire of the feminine, is never just about who she wants. It is about who she is becoming in the wanting. So, if you are a woman, ask, what have I been drawn to even when it hurt? What patterns repeat in my attractions? What unspoken longing lives beneath the surface? And if you are drawn to the feminine, ask, what am I awakening in her? What archetype does she summon in me? Do I honor her longing or do I fear it? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones, because in answering them, you begin to see desire not as indulgence, but as initiation. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore how each unique expression of desire, each archetypal current, shapes the emotional and psychological landscape of attraction. We will walk through the mirror of these archetypes not to label but to liberate, because understanding the root of what draws us is how we remember who we really are. Archetypes of desire, the feminine soul. Unveiled desire in its most primal form is an invocation, a sacred call from the soul to awaken what sleeps within. But this call is not universal. It is archetypal, unique in its expression and frequency. Each woman carries a constellation of inner figures, archetypes that shape not only how she desires, but what she draws in. To understand female desire is to walk into the mythic theater of her psyche and listen to the voices behind the curtain. Let us begin with the lover, the archetype most commonly mistaken as simply romantic or erotic. But the lover is not confined to candlelight or whispered names. She is the fire that consumes, the longing that stretches beyond time. When a woman is ruled by the lover archetype, she sees the world through the lens of beauty, connection, and immersion. Her deepest desire is not sex. It is fusion. She wants to taste the soul of another, to feel known without explanation. Strengths. She is magnetic, sensual, vibrant. The lover draws others in with her presence alone. She reminds us of pleasure, not just physical, but the pleasure of being fully alive, fully seen. She is unashamed of her desire because she understands it as sacred. Shadow aspects. When imbalanced, the lover can lose herself in others. She can become addicted to validation, seduced by intensity, or fearful of solitude. Her desire becomes a mirror not of love, but of longing to escape herself. Karmic lesson. To love without losing. To surrender without dissolving. To find ecstasy not in the eyes of another, but in the embrace of her own soul. Next, we enter the wilderness of the huntress. The huntress is untamed. She does not wait for permission. Her desire is directed, fierce, and self-owned. She moves through life like Artemis through the forest, bow drawn, gaze steady. A woman who carries the huntress archetype is drawn to freedom, challenge, and movement. Her longing is not for possession, but partnership. She does not crave comfort. She craves alignment. Strengths. She is autonomous, resilient, focused. She walks her own path and inspires others to do the same. She does not seduce, she summons. And the one who answers must match her stride. Shadow aspects. The huntress can become overly guarded, dismissing vulnerability as weakness. She may reject connection to avoid dependence, or project her fears of being trapped onto others. Karmic lesson. To open without surrendering her edge. To receive without losing her path. To remember that strength is not the absence of softness, but the integration of both. Now we descend into the realm of the mystic. She is the keeper of silence, the dreamer, the seer. Her desire is not of the flesh, but of the soul. She craves conversations that ripple through lifetimes, gazes that speak of lifetimes past. Her attraction is subtle, sacred, and often misunderstood. When the mystic governs desire, love becomes a ritual. She does not want surface. She wants depth. Her longing is for resonance, not role. Strengths. She is intuitive, empathic, profoundly wise. She can see the unseen, feel the unspoken, and guide others toward truth. Her love is devotional, not to a person, but to purpose. Shadow aspects. She may retreat too far into her inner world, struggling to stay grounded in physical intimacy. She can become elusive, detached, or burdened by emotional intensity she cannot explain. Karmic lesson. To balance spirit and body. To engage in love not as escape, but as embodiment. To remember that the sacred lives not only in the stars, but in skin, in laughter, in breath. From here we emerge into the garden of the maiden. Innocent, curious, blooming, the maiden's desire is not rooted in the past, but in possibility. She represents new beginnings, enchantment, and the wide-eyed wonder of falling in love for the first time. When the maiden is strong, a woman may be playful, lighthearted, full of hope. She desires exploration, fantasy, and emotional upliftment. Her attraction is often to ideals, dreams, and potential. Strengths. She brings joy, vitality, and optimism. She reminds us that love can be light. That connection doesn't always have to be a crucible. It can be a dance. Shadow aspects. The maiden can fall into naivete. She may idealize others, avoid pain, or deny darkness. Her longing can become projection, loving what could be instead of what is. Karmic lesson. To grow without hardening. To open her eyes without closing her heart. To transform innocence into wisdom without losing wonder. And finally, we bow before the mother, not merely the one who gives birth, but the one who nourishes, holds, and heals. Her desire is deep and unwavering. She seeks safety, stability, and purpose. Her longing is not just to receive love, but to create sanctuary with it. Strengths. She is nurturing, generous, and rooted. Her love is unconditional, her presence calming. She builds homes not just from walls, but from words, from gestures, from sacred care. Shadow aspects. The mother may lose herself in others. She can become overly responsible, sacrificing her own needs, or becoming attached to being needed. Her desire becomes duty. Karmic lesson. To give without depletion. To mother herself as deeply as she mothers others. To understand that love is not only offered, it must also be received. Each of these archetypes exist within every woman in different proportions and at different times. They are not boxes, they are mirrors. They are not roles, they are mythic energies, guiding the unfolding of the feminine soul. And each archetype desires not to be chosen, but to be heard, to be made conscious, to be honored, to be integrated. As we continue this journey, we will explore the shadow dimensions of these archetypes more deeply, not to shame or suppress, but to reclaim. Because only when we embrace the parts of desire we've hidden, feared, or judged, can we step into wholeness. And in that wholeness, something extraordinary happens. Desire becomes not a hunger, but a homecoming. Shadows of the feminine, when desire hides in the dark. If the light of desire draws us toward union, the shadow of desire pulls us into fragmentation. And yet, without shadow, there can be no depth, no true longing, no transformation. Carl Jung reminds us, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The same is true for female desire. Each archetype we've explored, the lover, the huntress, the mystic, the maiden, the mother, shimmers with sacred power. But each also carries a shadow, an unconscious counterpart born from repression, fear, shame, or wounded experience. These shadows do not make her broken. They make her human. Let us walk into that darkness, not with fear, but with reverence. Begin with the lover's shadow. When unacknowledged, the lover's sacred fire becomes an ache that consumes from within. She becomes the seductress, not one who connects, but one who conquers. She uses attraction as a shield, sensuality as currency, devotion as a mask for dependency. Her shadow arises when the need to be seen becomes a desperation to be desired, when she forgets that her worth is inherent, not earned through touch or adoration. She may fall into obsessive patterns, unable to let go, chasing the feeling of being wanted rather than the truth of being known. Yet even in this, there is a message. Where have I forgotten my own beauty? Where have I made another the source of my aliveness? Now step into the huntress's shadow. Her independence becomes armor. Her strength becomes isolation. She becomes the lone wolf, allergic to closeness, suspicious of tenderness. She scoffs at dependence and punishes vulnerability, especially her own. In the shadow, the huntress does not seek companionship. She hunts connection only to keep it at bay. She may mock those who long for love, calling it weakness, not realizing that her own solitude is born not of strength, but of fear. Her karmic whisper, "What wound taught me that needing someone would destroy me? Where have I mistaken protection for freedom?" Descend into the mystic's shadow. Here, depth becomes detachment. The mystic, unbalanced, becomes the escapist. Lost in dreams, symbols, and endless inner searching, she may avoid physical intimacy, struggle with emotional presence, or hide behind spiritual superiority. She becomes addicted to transcendence, denying the sacredness of the here and now. Her desire grows cold, not because it is gone, but because it's floating too far from the body. Her truth asks, what am I avoiding in the material world? Where did I learn that pain could be bypassed by floating above it? Now the soft light of the maiden dims into her shadow. The damsel, in her shadow, she resists growth, clings to fantasy, and waits to be rescued. Her desire is not active, it is passive, projecting salvation onto others and collapsing when reality doesn't match the dream. She may become easily wounded, emotionally volatile, or dependent on approval. She wants to be held, but forgets to hold herself. Her soul calls out, "Where have I handed my power away? What parts of me am I afraid to grow into?" And then we find the mother's shadow, the most hidden and most praised of all. She becomes the martyr, giving endlessly but with resentment seeping beneath the surface. She may become controlling, overly enmeshed, or drained. Her desire turns into duty, her love into burden. She forgets that nurturing without self-care is self-erasure. She may sabotage her own needs, fearing selfishness, or suppress her sexuality, believing it must be sacrificed for the sake of others. Her inner voice whispers, "Where did I learn that love meant depletion? What would it feel like to mother myself as tenderly as I do others?" These shadow forms are not punishments. They are portals. They show us what was once unconscious. They illuminate the archetypes we have disowned, the desires we have buried, the voices we have silenced. And when these shadows are brought into the light, when they are integrated rather than rejected, they become bridges to individuation. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of becoming whole. Not perfect, not pure, but whole. Wholeness means that the lover can burn without burning herself, that the huntress can run without fleeing, that the mystic can ascend without disappearing, that the maiden can hope without hiding, that the mother can give without vanishing. But integration is not intellectual. It is embodied. You must feel the ache. Face the pattern. Sit with the longing, not to fix it, but to hear it. Ask yourself now, what archetype dominates my desire? Which shadow aspects have I denied or dismissed? What unconscious wounds shape the kind of love I seek or fear? And if you are drawn to the feminine, dare to ask, what archetypes am I projecting onto her? Do I seek her to heal me or to meet her? Can I honor her light and her shadow? This is not the path of quick answers. It is the path of awakening. And in the next chapter, we will explore how to walk this path through practice, reflection, and conscious desire. Because once you see the archetypes, once you meet the shadows, the only way forward is through conscious desire from pattern to power. The moment we become aware of our patterns, our lives begin to shift, not in grand, cinematic ways, but in small, sacred ripples. And nowhere is this truer than in the realm of desire. When Carl Jung wrote of individuation, he spoke of it as a return, not to who we think we are, but to who we were always meant to become. The integration of shadow and light, of instinct and wisdom, of ache and awakening. Desire is one of the most potent messengers on that path. It shows us where we are hungry, where we are wounded, where we are waiting to remember. And when we stop chasing desire and begin listening to it, something remarkable happens. We stop repeating, we start revealing. In this part of our journey, we move from myth to mirror, from archetypes to action, not action as force, but as ritual, as reverent invitation. 1. Begin with reflection. Desire doesn't lie, but it does speak in symbols. To hear it clearly, ask yourself not just what you want, but why. What kind of person am I consistently drawn to? What part of me awakens in their presence? What do I believe they can give me that I cannot yet give myself? These are not simple questions. They are oracles. They invite you to excavate the unconscious, the inherited beliefs, the silent hopes, the hidden needs. When you trace desire to its root, you uncover its truth. It is never just about the other. It is always a message from the self. 2. Honor the archetype. Within, once you've identified your dominant archetype, whether it be the lover, the mystic, the huntress, the maiden, or the mother, begin to consciously dialogue with her. What does she fear? What does she need? What part of her is wounded and what part is wise? Journaling is a powerful gateway here. Speak to her. Let her speak through you. Give her a name, a voice, a place in your life. And when the shadow shows up, when you feel yourself seducing for validation, running from intimacy, fantasizing instead of grounding, pause. Don't shame it. Name it. Say, this is the damsel afraid to grow. This is the lover afraid to be alone. This is the mystic escaping pain. And then ask what she's trying to protect, because even your most self-sabotaging patterns began as protection. You are not broken. You are coded, and that code can be rewritten. 3. Practice conscious magnetism. Attraction is not accidental. It is energetic. It is psychological. It is symbolic. When you begin to live from an integrated place, desire becomes conscious magnetism. You no longer chase. You emanate. You draw in not what you crave, but what you have made space for. To do this, create rituals that anchor your archetype. The lover may tend to her body, adorn herself, move sensually, not for attention, but to awaken aliveness within. The huntress may set goals, take silent walks through nature, cultivate focus and discipline. The mystic may meditate, dream journal, connect to the unseen realms and her inner knowing. The maiden may play, laugh, write poetry, or explore something new each day. The mother may create sacred space, cook with intention, or care for herself with the same tenderness she gives others. These acts are not indulgent. They are invitations. Each one sends a message to your unconscious. I am listening now. I am ready. And when you treat your own longing with reverence, others will too. 4. Transform desire into dialogue. The deepest desire is not for someone who excites your fantasy. It is for someone who reflects your truth. But truth must be shared. Begin speaking your inner world. Slowly. Authentically. Not to impress, but to connect. This is what I'm learning about myself. Here's a part of me I've kept hidden. I feel drawn to you, and I'm curious what part of me you're awakening. These are not confessions. They are bridges. They create the space for desire to evolve from chemistry into conscious communion. And if the other cannot meet you there, that too is sacred clarity, because conscious desire requires resonance, not resistance. 5. Reframe repetition as initiation. If you found yourself trapped in the same relational patterns, do not despair. This is not a curse, it is a classroom. Jung believed that what we do not bring to consciousness will repeat you over and over until we learn the lesson hidden within. So look back. That toxic love, that missed connection, that magnetic but painful draw toward the unavailable, each was a teacher wearing the mask of a lover. Ask, what did this pattern teach me about my boundaries, about my worth, about what I am no longer willing to abandon in myself for love? When you reframe pain as initiation, you turn wounds into wisdom. You step out of victimhood and into vision, and perhaps most powerfully. 6. Commit to the path of wholeness. At the heart of all desire, beneath the lust, the ache, the dream, is the soul's call to be whole. That is why you want what you want. That is why it hurts when it's unmet. That is why the journey matters more than the outcome. The moment you begin walking toward your inner archetypes with open arms, the moment you choose curiosity over criticism, the moment you choose embodiment over escape, you become not just a seeker of love, but a mirror of it, and the world responds. Because when a woman reclaims her desire, she becomes a magnet for truth, not for attention, not for validation, but for resonance. And when desire becomes resonance, everything changes. In our next and final section, we will explore how conscious desire becomes a force of transformation, not just for ourselves, but for our relationships, our communities, and our shared future. Because once you have seen the truth of your longing, you are never the same again. Desire, as destiny, from self to soul, from longing to light. There comes a moment on every seeker's path when the ache becomes the answer. When the questions soften, not because they're resolved, but because you finally know where they lead. Desire, when stripped of its projections, purged of its illusions, reveals its truest form, a compass of the soul. Carl Jung believed that each of us is born with a self, a complete radiant essence buried beneath layers of persona, shadow, and collective noise. The journey of life is not to become someone else, but to remember who we already are. And it is desire that leads us there. Quietly, boldly, persistently. When a woman begins to live from her archetypes consciously, compassionately, something shifts not just inside her, but around her. Desire no longer becomes a reaction to what the world offers, but a radiance that calls in what aligns. Let us now complete this sacred journey by returning from the inner world to the outer. Let us bring the myth home. Let us embody the mirror. Desire in relationship. Recognition, not rescue. When you walk into love carrying your archetypes as integrated allies, not as shadows to hide or roles to play, your relationships transform. No longer are you seeking someone to complete you. You are seeking someone to reflect you. The lover in you calls out the lover in them. The huntress in you recognizes the sovereign in them. The mystic in you finds home in their depth. The maiden dances with their curiosity. The mother rests in their safety. And you will know the difference. Not by butterflies, but by peace. Not by drama, but by depth. Not by intensity, but by intimacy. The kind that grows roots, not just flames. This is conscious attraction. This is archetypal alignment. And yet, the work is never done. Because relationships will always mirror what still needs healing. Every trigger is a teacher. Every longing, a lesson. So when conflict arises, don't ask only, what did they do? Ask also, what part of me is speaking now? Is it the damsel afraid to be alone? The martyr seeking to be needed? The escapist floating above the pain? Then breathe, witness, reintegrate, This is the sacred dance of two whole souls choosing to evolve together, not to fix each other, but to see each other. Desire as sacred purpose. Beyond love, beyond romance, desire points us to our deepest calling. Because what you long for most, connection, expression, union, truth, is not random. It is sacred design. It is the echo of your destiny. The lover may be called to create beauty through art, sensuality, healing touch. The huntress may lead revolutions or carve new paths for others to follow. The mystic may write, teach, or channel truth from unseen realms. The maiden may awaken joy, reminding others of the magic in innocence. The mother may hold space not only for life, but for dreams, for visions, for futures not yet born. Desire is not distraction, it is direction, and the more you follow its whispers, not the addictive cravings of the ego, but the soul longings beneath, the more your life begins to align. Doors open, patterns dissolve, people arrive, because the universe always responds to the one who is no longer hiding. Becoming the mirror. Perhaps the most beautiful truth of Jungian psychology is this: as you individuate, as you integrate your shadow, embody your archetypes, and follow the thread of your own becoming, you don't just heal yourself, you become a light for others. You become a mirror, a living archetype, a vessel of truth in a world addicted to illusion. Your presence becomes magnetic, not for what you have, but for who you are. You inspire other women to reclaim their desire, not hide it. You invite your partners to show up as their full selves, not fragments. You show your children that longing is not shameful, but sacred. You become a thread in the tapestry of collective awakening. And isn't that what we're really here for? To awaken, to remember, to desire, not blindly, but boldly, not as craving, but as creation. Let us close with this. Your desires are not random. They are the breadcrumbs of your becoming. Each longing is a lantern, each ache a guide, each shadow a gate. You were not meant to silence your desire, you were meant to follow it, into your body, into your soul, into the places still waiting to be touched by truth. So ask yourself now, what archetype am I being called to embody in this season? What old pattern am I finally ready to release? What truth do I feel pulsing beneath my skin, asking to be lived? Write it, speak it, dance it, become it. Because desire is not just what you want, it is what you are. It is the pulse of your unique place in the fabric of the universe. And when you honor it, you don't just find love, you find yourself. And in that self, you find the world, mirrored back to you in truth, beauty, and sacred belonging. In the quiet of your own gaze, in the rhythm of your own time, you carry the universe's wisdom. Now, what will you choose to see?